The following show contains views and opinions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to Thespian Talk, everybody. It's been a couple of weeks, but we are back. Last week was just one of those weeks. It's like nothing came together like it was supposed to, and it's just, well, we have those weeks. Everybody has those weeks. So I am your host, Gomer the Ranting Thespian, and my regular co-hosts are not here. One is, they're both busy or something is going on in their house that they can't really record or what have you. But we do have our special guest this week. We have Mr. Patrick Brogan. How are you, Pat?
I'm fine. Coffee is currently fueling my entire body, but I'm fine.
Some people drink coffee. I've actually got a Coca-Cola here for my caffeine, but yeah.
Coffee was the strongest thing I could get my hands on once I came in the door. So like, okay, this is going into me as soon as I can get the kettle boiled.
There you go. Oh, so for those who don't know, obviously Patrick here is new addition to the site. And for those who have never heard of you before, why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, I have a show that is called The Unemployed Historian, and if it probably gives away in the title that it is about history. Generally it's a film review thing. Well, it has been for the past couple of years, but recently I've been introducing more, just doing history topics in general. It is a silly show about history, basically. There are occasionally film reviews. There will be more coming up. There are occasionally things like recently I've done a short history of Valentine's Day. A few days ago I did a short history of St. Patrick's Day. Between that there was a small run of vlogs about a mini-series that was going on here in Ireland about a former Prime Minister, Charlie. And in between films and talking about holidays and things, I've also done book reviews. I recently did a video on the memoirs of Catalina de Erazo, a Basque transvestite nun who traveled to South America and essentially went around killing and cavorting and generally being incredibly fascinating. And they're all up on both here on RT Gomer and on theunemployedhistorian.com. That's generally what I do. I also have a podcast, before I forget, called Pilot Season, where we talk about TV pilots, and that's myself and my co-host, Alan. We do that once a week because the videos are usually a bit more research heavy than the podcast, so they take a little longer to put together, and that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
And then I drink coffee.
Yes, coffee. Actually, I'm trying to actually catch up on Pilot Season a little bit, and the last one I remember I was listening to when I was driving back home from Dothan, which is about maybe a 30-mile drive, was on Puczynski.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, that's like vaguely familiar. That seems like something, especially given the time frame, I would have, at least looked at as a kid. It's like, I don't remember anything else, just the name. It's like the name sounds so familiar. But
that was a show and a half, that.
So I'm
wow.
hearing, it's like, damn. Gee, I wonder why they never picked it up.
Yeah, they could have done something with it, but they didn't go either. They didn't go full bore one side or the other. I guess you have a talking dog based show. It should be more comedic than it really was. Another good thing about Pilot Season is generally they're kind of short. They're only maybe 30, 40 minutes long. An hour is the longest one's an hour and 5 minutes, which is short enough because really when you're talking about a 30-minute pilot, there's very little to talk about sometimes.
Yeah. And unless somebody gets into motor mouth mode, and then that extends it out a little bit. But that happens on any show, so
Sometimes myself and my co-host, we're not really. When Alan has something to say, he generally just says it, and if he has nothing else to add, he'll stay quiet.
Yeah.
Have recently had guests on. Actually, we got Jason Mann from a wonderful podcast called Wrestlepective and a few other podcasts. We've been doing a wrestling-themed month for WrestleMania, and Jason came on to talk with the XWF. We've had... actually, this week we will have Leon Thomas of Renegade coming on to talk about Star Trek, because he's bringing back Attack of the Trek. So there's a bonus podcast coming up soon. If you're listening to this and it's recent, I don't know when this is coming up. It might actually be before this goes out. I don't know.
Well, these usually go up to the public about Mondays, so
It actually might be around the same day. Actually, if I get it edited in time, it might be the same day.
That'd be awesome.
I'll be everywhere.
Yes, everywhere at once. The power of the internet.
Certainly.
Oh lordy. So something that we also do, if you're new here, we also do something called shoutouts, and my dumbass forgot to tell you about it before we started actually recording the show, Pat. But what it is we just, if we find something on the net that we really like, we want other people to know, we just tell them about it. There will be links like in the descriptions in every place that I post this, whether it's on my own site, Nerdvice, YouTube. I'm even starting to put the links in the descriptions for the audio files, so when they go up on iTunes, you should be able to see it, I hope. I've not tested it myself, so somebody who actually listens to the show on iTunes, let me know if it works, please. But for me this week, I found a game on freegameplanet.com, and it's called Donkey Me. And as pornographic as that could possibly sound, it is not. It's basically a Donkey Kong clone where all of the characters are replaced with characters from popular movies. They've got Star Wars, Alien, Rambo, I want to say Big Trouble in Little China is another one of them, Indiana Jones, Gremlins even, and a few others that I can't really think of off the top of my head. But it's on freegameplanet.com. Go check it out. Download is free. I tested it a little bit before we started. You can even use your gamepad for it. It is fun. If you love Donkey Kong, you like seeing all these little things, you'll love it. But I don't know. Do you have any particular shout-outs that you wanted to share this week, Pat? Or I mean, if you don't, it's okay. But
no, nothing really. I just had the audio cut out there for a little bit, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on.
Uh-oh.
So you came back about maybe 30 seconds ago.
Okay. Yeah, and another thing before we actually head on, in case I forget to edit this part out, I am using what I'm terming my backup headset, because while we were recording the Poor Charlie podcast last week, my normal headset kind of just decided, hey, I'm not going to let you have the ability to listen to your co-host anymore. And it's hard to do a podcast that way, so...
It is. I've tried not listening to people I'm podcasting with, but it really doesn't work out that well.
Yeah, so if there's any glitches or anything, that's why I am trying to get a new microphone as soon as possible. So I don't have to worry about this bullshit.
But to probably answer your question, no, I have nothing to plug except all of the podcasts and videos and things that I normally do, which I have nothing special coming up this week apart from, I guess, Leon turning up on my podcast is great. It's a pretty good podcast, actually. We talked about The Cage, the first Star Trek pilot. It was a fun thing too, because Leon knows his Star Trek. It's good times.
Sweet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and hit the news. Oh dear. Some of which I've been gathering for a couple of weeks because, hey, it happens when you end up not being able to do a show. Now this first one, I put it in here for two reasons. Number one, I found it like right after we finished the show with Greer. It was supposed to go in last week's, so the information is a little old. And the number two reason why it's in there, it's in Panama City Beach, which is about 50 or 60 miles from yours truly. So this is homegrown news bug fuckery here. So Panama City Beach, Florida. A Florida church that hosted naked paint parties and slumber party Sundays featuring the sexiest ladies on the beach has lost its tax-exempt status. The News-Herald of Panama City reports that the Life Center, a spiritual community, has been operating a 7-day-a-week party called Amnesia at the Tabernacle since February 28th. Sign on the door says events are alcohol and drug-free, but Sheriff Frank McKeithen calls the party atmosphere a blatant slap in the face to taxpayers. He says church officials are trying to get around the laws. So they're trying to not pay taxes on this nightclub, from what I'm understanding of this. They don't want to pay taxes on this nightclub. They want to make more money, so they call it a church. The church of frat party, I guess. I don't know.
Isn't there something in the Bible about doing something very similar to this?
I think so too, and I think Jesus got pissed and flipped tables and beat the shit out of people for it.
I seem to recall that. Now, I did, I grew up and still live in Ireland, quite Catholic country. I'm myself not particularly religious, but primary school we got an awful lot of religious stories, and I remember that being one that there was a particularly angry Jesus drawn in our religion book, him turning over things and being very, very peeved off at stuff. So this isn't a church. It's really just a nightclub pretending to be a church.
Yeah, come on, it's Panama City Beach. You've got enough nightclubs around there. Just Spinnaker and Club La Vila alone. There's your nightclub scene right there. So it's like, you don't need to do that. It's just you want to be a club, be a club. Okay, be a club, but you don't need to be pulling this bullshit, guys. All right. Geez.
Tax is terrible. You shouldn't pay tax.
Okay, let's see. Nobody pays taxes. Well then, how are the roads going to get paid for? Private corporations? Not a lot of them are going to give too much of a shit, I don't think, because they're too busy worrying about making a profit. Although some of the smarter ones will probably pay for some of it because they actually realize that in order to get increased profits, people need to get to their businesses. That's just kind of a thing there. And this next one I put in, and I'm going to say right off the bat that this news story talks about something that has been proven to be false. In fact, when I saw it, it was on the tail end of somebody saying that, yeah, this is false. They linked it to Snopes or wherever it was and said, yeah, this cannot happen. This is an example of a news story not doing their fucking, not news story, but news station rather, not doing their fucking research. Nashville, Tennessee. A popular lip balm has become part of an emerging trend called Beezen. Teens are using Burt's Beeswax lip balm. Try saying that 5 times fast. Holy shit! On their eyelids, in an effort to get high. Those who have taken part in Beezen say the peppermint oil causes a tingling and burning sensation, which creates a sensation of being drunk or high. Others have said it helps them stay alert. I think it's crazy, said college student Meredith Stocks. Who would have thought that people would be doing that? Teens, they'll take anything to get a buzz, concerned parent Gary Stagg said. Two obvious victims of this hoax. Burt's Bees lip balm may be 100% natural, but it doesn't make Beezen safe. Dr. Mary Romano at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital says Beezen could lead to health risks like inflammation of the eye, swelling, and other symptoms similar to pink eye. She said it's not only dangerous but pointless since there is no active ingredient in the balm that could actually get someone high. There's your clue, folks. Everybody at this news station or whatever, there's no active ingredient that could get anybody high on this. So just, thinking that kids are not that stupid. Kids and teens are not that stupid. I think a lot of them would know better. Or at the very least, they're going to learn from the stupid ones who would try something like this, and thus, this would not be necessary. 5 minutes of extra research would have shown that this had come around before, and it's a fake. It's a hoax. You cannot get high off of Burt's Beeswax. You just can't. Now, if you could, that would be interesting, but you can't.
This doesn't actually read like a real thing. It reads made up.
It does. It does. But I can assure you, I got it from a local news station in Nashville. So that means somebody on there had to have believed it enough to put this on the news.
It seems to me like a thing that, you've got. It's a story that someone saw. Well, this seems like a thing that would enrage our middle-aged grumpy readers or whatever, because it's like them teens doing crazy things with their rubbing of lip balm on their eyes because apparently it will make them high / drunk or whatever. It just comes off so made up.
It does.
And why would someone rub things on their eyes? I don't understand that. It would hurt to rub anything on your eye. If you even get a bit of dust in your eye, it stings like crazy. And I can see why it's a story. Mm-hmm. I can see why it's being, why someone at a news desk somewhere might say, this seems like something we could run on a particularly news day to try and, get some clicks or get some whatever, get some get some attention.
Get some eyeballs looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, but it just, reading it, even the quotes, read like they were made up by someone who was just making copy because they needed to fill space. It's such a weird little article.
It is, and it's just it's like in this news story, this news station let it get published, and when I actually looked at it, bear in mind I do copy and paste the meat of the article from the thing, and I do try to take a look and see if there's anything that indicates an article or a site is satire. This comes from, an actual news station, so okay. The news station is not satirical. I didn't notice any indication on the article itself that this was meant to be satirical or anything. So that leads me to believe. Yeah, that leads me to believe that whoever wrote this and whoever cleared this, thought this was actually fucking true. It's just no. And it's just you would think, because obviously the doctor had to be interviewed for this thing. You would think that their first clue would be, wait, maybe this whole bees and thing is not happening because nobody's getting high off of this shit, even though people are claiming kids are getting high off of this shit, but they ran it anyway.
It smells to me of something. Probably the cynic in me says, this was run because they thought it would get attention. It was run because it's a good story to run, not because it's necessarily true. They need to check it out. I mean, that happens.
Yeah, and you're probably right on that one too. Because my first thought on that one is like, so wait, they've pulled a Fox News? Nah, except although this would be something I could find on Fox News, I'm sure. They probably would sniff it out and be like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Oh, Beeson is going to go destroy your kids and turn them liberal. Oh! Fucking Fox News. Because bees are known to be quite liberal.
Of course. In my opinion, my experience of bees, they're very left wing. They they live under a matriarchy. That's just weird.
Yeah. It is sad. And the thing is, not only do they live under a matriarchy, the women are doing all the work, and the men are just there for breeding stock, from what I understand of how the bee's natural cycle works.
Yeah, the liberal bees just coming in, coming in and spreading their liberal agenda via their honey.
Yes.
I'm surprised that hasn't been run with as a story somewhere.
You know what? If the right person listened to this show, who knows? They might. Which Fox News, that also reminds me of another thing. You heard about what Google is doing with their search engine algorithms, right?
Possibly. You may need to remind me.
Okay, what they're going to be doing, I don't know if they're still planning on doing this or if they're just going to go ahead with it anyway. But Google is going to take news story, like news sites or whatever, and instead of arranging them by popularity on their search engine, they're going to arrange them by how much truth is actually in the news article. So Fox News, of course, being one of the least trusted news sites when it comes to actually being truthful with a lot of their shit, they're whining and complaining. But people won't come to our site. Well, then that's your fault now, isn't it? You know. And even then, I may have even mentioned it on another show because I'm feeling like I might have, but there are still other search engines out there that may not do this thing. You have Bing. I don't even know if Yahoo still has its own search engine anymore. But there are other search engines. Huh?
I think it does.
Okay,
I think it does.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a 50-year-old man. I don't know if Yahoo exists.
But yeah, there are other search engines out there, and it doesn't have to go through Google. So you are going to have people that will actually get to Fox News, and there are people that are going to go there deliberately anyway. So your numbers your numbers and your information spread is relatively safe, Fox. Okay, it relatively is.
I think the answer here is they need to revive AskJeeves.com.
There you go.
And then they can channel all of the searches to Ask Jeeves.
There you go.
Well, probably if you got your target audience for a Fox News story might not use Google. They might use Yahoo or something else.
Yeah.
Some special Fox News search engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so our next one. Oh dear, out of Minnesota. This is gonna be gross. I'm just gonna warn you, everybody now. It's gonna be gross.
Yeah.
Adding bodily fluids to something a person is going to eat or drink would be specifically listed as a crime in Minnesota under a bill headed to the House floor. A Blaine man was initially charged with 2 gross misdemeanor counts, one of fifth-degree criminal sexual conduct, and one of attempted fifth-degree criminal sexual conduct. The legalities is just, why don't just 2 charges of one or whatever. That's for later. After an August 26th incident in which he allegedly put his semen into a co-worker's coffee.
Salty.
Indeed. That is okay. I understand you probably want them to swallow. That's not how you get them to do it. Just piece of advice there. The charges were dismissed in November by a Ramsey County judge who said the crime required non-consensual touching of the victim's intimate parts. Under the bill, sponsored by Representative Deborah Hillstrom, a prosecutor from Brooklyn Center, and Senator John Hoffman of Champlin, placing bodily fluids in a substance intended for human consumption would be a misdemeanor. It would become a felony if someone ingests it without knowledge of the adulteration, with escalating penalties if it's done for sexual gratification or if the victim is a child. The bill passed Wednesday in the House Public Safety Committee and heads next to the House floor. The Blaine man, John Robert Lind, was caught standing at a co-worker's desk with his hands in front of him near his genitals, according to a criminal complaint. He admitted having ejaculated onto the woman's desk or other items on 4 occasions and into her coffee twice within the past 6 months, according to the complaint. After the charges were dismissed in Ramsey County, the city of New Brighton charged Lind with a misdemeanor count of engaging in lewd or indecent behavior. So he's still in trouble because, hey, you don't just pull out your dick and start masturbating everywhere.
I'm sorry, but the context and the phrase "headed to the House floor" just sort of started hurting in my head.
There you go.
Just, why not?
Sure.
No. So he just put on her desk. This is like just casually, just on her desk, on her stuff. I assume he like mopped up afterwards. Otherwise, he'd have been caught pretty quickly.
Yeah, I hope so. Or well, you can wipe it up, but the smell still remains sometimes. But jeebus. So
I don't.
So for this to become a felony, if this happens, I think what does it say? I think it says it's a misdemeanor. I think it says they say it's a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I can see that. I can see why it would need to be why they might want to make it a felony too. Because what if you do something like that and you have some horrible STD? Like what if you have HIV and
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you do this and they ingest it. I don't know how well that would spread if you ingest something with HIV, unless you have like cuts or scrapes or something in your mouth or whatever. Um, I don't know how well it would go for ingesting, because I would think that it wouldn't have time to like get absorbed by the bloodstream, and the stomach acids would probably kill it. Also, like if you do it in coffee, the heat alone, I would think probably, there would probably be some chemical reaction that would kill them.
Hmm.
But erring on the side of caution, don't fucking do that.
How
You
does she
know,
take her coffee generally?
I don't. It doesn't say.
Because,
I would like to know.
you know, I think you'd notice. I mean, I made a cup of coffee, as I've mentioned a couple times before this recording started, and I think I'd notice if there was something in it other than coffee and water and sugar.
Hmm. Yeah, just
Because
I think I would notice too, because
it floats.
yeah. Or maybe he mixes it in, like really well, which would be really weird, and oh god, and
He
the
has to stick
possible
the
implications of what he would
spooky.
use to mix it in there. No, just
Just well, I'd hope he at least uses a spoon. Otherwise, he'd be easily caught because he'd have burns on a very special part.
hmm yeah, just very
His own
very
personal
special.
spoon.
Yeah, just no. But yeah, I can see why they would want to make it a felony, like I said, because like I said, the HIV thing, yeah, or
It,
some other
it,
STD. I can
it's
see
still a
that.
little bit, unless
Yeah,
someone is particularly into, with someone their coffee being filled with
yeah.
man juice. I don't I don't know. I guess this guy must just this guy has a very weird way of expressing his apparent um I guess attraction to this woman. I hope it's attraction.
I hope so
Otherwise,
too.
otherwise it's just like hate jizzing.
Yeah, it's like and the escalation though, I kind of wonder about, because it's like, okay, it's a felony, and it's a felony if you do it just for the lulz. Okay, oh, I'm gonna spooge in this donut here and watch somebody eat it. Oh, you ate my food. Oh, and apparently from what I'm gleaning from the article, the next one up is if you do it and you see the person you like eating it, and then you go in the back and masturbate to the thought of them eating something with your spooge.
Hmm.
And then the next level would obviously be if the victim was a child, which that one is totally understandable. But
Yes, that's naturally.
I would think that the sexual gratification and the lulz would kind of be on the same level. I mean, and then only the child would raise it further because, hey, it's a
Yeah,
fucking kid.
yeah. It either way, it really it's definitely a crime if they're not in if that's not something they said. Hey, why don't you just come over to my desk and make yourself a mess all over it and in my coffee? Why not?
Yeah.
If it's a thing, if they were a couple and that was their thing, hey, more
No
power
problem.
to them. But
Yeah.
if it's and how I'm still kind of working through the process of how someone's like sitting at their desk or whatever, and there's like whatever the woman who they're crushing on is over there, and they're like, what? How do you go from ooh, she's kind of cute, maybe I should ask her out or whatever, to gonna jerk off in her coffee. That's gonna get me what I want.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, oh God, why am I thinking of of the possibility of this being a really horrible MRA fantasy?
Ooh,
Oh,
possibly.
oh dear.
Or maybe he's like trying to write "Will you go out with me" in it on her desk.
We
Like,
don't, dudes don't produce enough spooge for that, man.
oh, maybe you don't.
Wow. Well, okay, not everybody can be Peter North. Oh, Jeebus.
He could be very special, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he was trying. He's. What I'm saying is, he maybe needs to rethink his He needs to rethink the way he approaches women.
Yeah. Yeah. Just no, dude. That's not the way to do it. Not the way to do it.
No.
Oh, you're better off going to Craigslist, honestly. Speaking of Craigslist, this one is horrific with a touch of face palming stupid. A 26-year-old Longmont woman who was 7 months pregnant showed up at home on Wednesday to buy baby clothes she'd seen in a Craigslist post. What police say happened is horrific. The 34-year-old woman who lives at home stabbed the pregnant woman and removed her baby. The baby did not survive. Police Commander Jeff Sater said police responded to the home on a stabbing call at about 2:45. Sater said officers arrived on the scene and could hear a woman calling for help inside the home. They entered and found the victim, who had been beaten and stabbed in the stomach with a knife. The woman who was attacked was taken to Longmont United Hospital, where she underwent surgery and is expected to recover. Police located the suspect at the hospital after she apparently arrived with the baby and said she'd suffered a miscarriage, Sater said. That's where it's at that particular point where I start wall banging, because why would you do that? I mean, if you're going to be this malicious shit, if you're going to be this horrible human being to begin with, what is your end game? What was her end game? I wonder. Like, what?
Oh,
it's like that's something I don't understand. Wanting. I mean, I can understand, in this particular case, I definitely can't understand it because you fucked up and you killed the baby. I'm assuming this person either just wanted to cause mayhem or really, really wanted a baby for herself. There have been instances of this happening in the past, believe you me. But she fucked up, and now it's like, what the fuck? You're a horrible human being, and you fucked up your thing anyway, so what were you gonna do?
It does say later in the article this person may have been mentally ill, which, which would explain a lot of the behavior, and it's obvious it is horrific. Obviously, if the person is the person involved or the person who perpetrated is ill, is mentally ill. I feel a little bit of I feel we have sympathy on both sides in a way in that kind of thing, because obviously this person maybe couldn't quite rationalize what they were doing, and it's really it's an awful story. It's just so sad for everyone involved.
It is,
but it is like you don't go to someone's house off of an internet Craigslist ad or whatever. I know Craigslist I don't think is really a thing here. I think we have it. We have other things, but like you don't just turn up at someone's house from a random ad you've answered to buy stuff. That was a mistake.
Yeah, I typically try. Let's see. Last time I even got any. No, in fact, last time I got any sort of. Well, okay. Last time I got any sort of a date off a dating site, the person did show up at my house, but we'd also been talking for a while and we knew each other. But the last time that I initiated anything off a dating site, we met at a fucking public place. So it's like, and that's just for a dating site.
I would think that would be the done thing. Like in my experience, if you meet anyone off the internet, you meet them in a public place. That's not. Like, I've never met anyone who off the internet who turned out to be a terrible person, but touch wood. But I still would meet them in a public place, because that seems to be the most. That seems to be the best idea, and then maybe eventually, if you eventually maybe you want to, you end up in their home if you become friends or whatever for whatever reasons or whatever. I don't know, but you don't go straight to like some random person's house to buy stuff off the internet. That just seems kind of a red flag to me.
Yeah,
and not that I really wanted to denigrate this poor woman who's after having her baby literally cut out of her. That is awful. But maybe you should have thought twice before doing that. It's still, I can't. I'm trying to say that without trying to sound like.
Without trying to sound victim blaming.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm of the same mindset there. It's like on the one hand, it's like really should know, but at the same time, we can't really harp too much on it because of what happened.
It's awful. It's absolutely terrible. And but I'd say I would say maybe 9 times out of 10 that might be fine. I don't know. I know really nothing about Craigslist ads and things, because we don't have that here. We You have Gumtree. That's a similar thing, I think, isn't it? But
Yes. But yeah.
I don't know.
Oh boy. So
Sad story.
yes, going from the sad to more bug fuck insane, or just really want me to add another dent into the wall. Former New York
Oh,
Mayor Rudy Giuliani, a Republican naturally, just can't resist talking about race. On Thursday, the former New York mayor said that President Barack Obama doesn't praise the country's police enough and should say more things like disgraced comedian Bill Cosby used to. Speaking on AM 970 Thursday morning, Giuliani said that the president isn't paying attention to the enormous amounts of crime and that it's the obligation of the president to explain that our police are the best in the world. I hate to mention it because of what happened afterwards, but Obama should be saying the kinds of stuff Bill Cosby used to say, Giuliani said on the radio station, according to the New York Daily Times. Obama actually praises the police often, including in a major speech he delivered in Selma, Alabama recently. Cosby had frequently argued that African Americans should avoid engaging in crime and focus on being better parents. Giuliani did offer a little praise for the president, though, saying, "I disagree with Barack Obama on almost everything, but I think he's a good family man and a good man." Hey, that's more credit than most Republicans will give him. So, points. About a month earlier, Giuliani said that he didn't think Obama loved America. "He doesn't love you and he doesn't love me," Giuliani said to a group of business executives in New York. "He wasn't brought up the way you were brought up, and I was brought up through love of this country." Giuliani later said those comments couldn't possibly be racist because Obama's mother was white. Bullshit!
weird. Yeah.
It was like,
Go ahead.
it's like, Giuliani, no, just go sit over there in the corner and think about what you've done. It's like, oh, he doesn't praise the police enough. Well, guess what? Most of the country doesn't praise the police enough. All right.
Okay. Not from an outsider perspective, not a good time to be saying you should praise the police much, because outside of America we're kind of looking going, that's a bit wow, no.
No, there's not much praise for the police as a whole. I could probably praise some individual police officers that are doing good, despite all of the bad apples that are being, shown to not only us but also obviously the rest of the world. There are good apples in there, and we can praise them.
Sure.
But as far as the police force as a whole, not really. Just no, not as a whole.
No, I mean, there's always going to be. It's never going to be 100% one way or the other, obviously. But yeah, from PR wise, the president of the country shouldn't come out and say, the police force are great when you can blatantly point at spots. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff needs fixing, and as opposed to you can't really. And also bringing up Bill Cosby, a little bit of a bad PR move.
Yeah.
Too. And even and as far as I know, Bill Cosby's whole preachy way of talking to African Americans was not particularly popular either amongst African Americans, from what I've heard. I find this actually to compare and for contrast. Here in Ireland, we our president, for example, is not particularly important. I mean, we call the place where the president lives in Ireland is a place called Áras Nuachtaráin. Basically means the president's residence, or the residence of the president, and it's basically a retirement home. We send kind of old men to hang out there for 7 to 14 years until they either die or just get voted out. So not really a very important post, and our Taoiseach, our Prime Minister, is more important. But we don't have this kind of hard, fast left and right thing either, because all of our parties, our major political parties, apart from the Labour Party, all came out of the one party. They came out of the original. You've probably heard of Sinn Féin. They came out of the original Sinn Féin, so they are splinters of the same thing. They basically all believe the same thing. So we don't have a real divide here. So it's always really interesting to see how that works, across the Atlantic, where over here and in Britain as well, it's really, that is actually it's not a thing as much, especially as it's never been a thing here, and it really surprises me kind of to see how this fracturing continues to grow. And I've seen statistics that are showing that it's gone further apart in the last 20 years. It's very, very, very weird to me.
This is one of those things where, at least in the political sense of our country, this is one of those things where it's like, I wish we could just, start over, just take it all out, start over. It's 2015. Let's put some younger people in there with more modern ideals that aren't going to try and push us back to 1950 or further, depending on who you ask, and just let's go forward. We need to go forward here, okay? Just forward. That's where we need to go. And speaking of people who want to go backwards, Boise, Idaho. Idaho. The Idaho House on Friday voted 44 to 25 in favor of a non-binding memorial to Congress calling for federal judges who rule in favor of gay marriage to be impeached. Now I really wish Omega was here. I think somehow, someday, we've got to take a stand, GOP Representative Paul Shepard told the House. A sixth-term state representative from Riggins, who owns a sawmill and a log home company, Shepard was the author and sponsor of the measure. You can't say in a moral behavior, according to God's word, what we've all been taught since the beginning, is something that's just, and that's really kind of what this is all about, he told the House. We better uphold Christian morals. As an example, how about fornication, adultery, and other issues? So in other words, you want to push your Christianity upon everybody else. It's really what this is. You wrap it in these words, and that's fine. You know what? Hey, if you're a Christian and you've got these specific morals to uphold, fine. Others may agree with some of them. Like, you don't go randomly killing people. You don't randomly go out and just lie to people. We all can get on board with those. But this whole thing against like gay marriage, against fornication, adultery, well, hell, a lot of us can even agree on adultery too, because cheating on your partner is not a good thing. So so you don't do that. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
But to push these ideals on somebody else who may not necessarily agree. You might have somebody out there that's, well, I would find them scum of the earth who say, yeah, adultery's not a thing. Adultery's no big deal. I go out and just, I have one girl that stays at home and I go out and bang all these other girls. She has no idea. You're scum of the earth, but it should be legal for you to do so. You're still going to have to deal with the consequences once everything comes out, but, it should not be illegal in and of itself. You're going to have enough consequences, when everybody finds out and they try to beat the shit out of you.
I think it's more of a thing of, in those kind of cases where it's not a legal issue unless these people are married or living together, and then maybe then it can snowball from there. But reading through this, again, I can kind of pop back that, I live in Ireland. And we have a history of being quite religious in this country. We didn't legalize homosexuality until 1996, for example. And we actually are on the verge of having a marriage equality referendum in a couple of months. Ooh. And reading this is kind of again one of those weird things where religion there is a religious kind of fervor about a little bit about it in this country. There's been leaflets handed out by groups. I've seen very few of them. I live in the country and I don't really get much of that. I'd say you probably see more of it in Dublin or whatever. But even here, religion does come into it, but I feel like in a lot of cases it can kind of get shouted down a little bit more, maybe not completely on some issues, but it's a very strange thing to kind of pick and choose your what your morals say is right and wrong based on whether you think something is essentially icky or not. I don't get that kind of thinking. I feel like over here, while it does exist, I feel kind of in the ether in Ireland essentially it's getting like it's an older person's game. You know, like the young people in Ireland are probably more for things like marriage equality, and because I mean, I've known people who are gay who, when they were born, it was illegal for them to for them to be who they are, and now it's the purpose, and I feel like it's kind of growing and changing. And Ireland is traditionally quite conservative, but I feel like it is pushing liberally, and I feel I bring it up because I think it's very interesting to contrast the two things. But you know, you can't. That's my main point. Is you can't dictate based on pick and choose morals what people can and cannot do in their own lives and legally. It's
the way I've always seen it is you know you have your rights. Your rights end where somebody else's rights begin, basically, and that's different for everything. You know, like you have the right to go out and get married however you want. You know, you're not bothering anybody. You're not harming anybody. Where your rights will end is, say, you know, you go out and shoot somebody. Well, you're infringing upon somebody else's rights to, you know, safety and happiness and everything. So that's where your rights will end. So thus, I would ask people like what is his name, Paul Shepard, how are they infringing upon your rights? They are not, by getting married. Or are you worried about losing the so-called right to be able to discriminate against them because your God doesn't like it, supposedly? That's one of the, and one other thing actually from this article. Ken Andrus from Lava Hot Springs. I want to go there. Just because of the name alone. He
Sounds
spoke
unpleasant, maybe.
But he spoke out, of course, in favor of the bill. The thing that bothers me is that a small group of judges are ignoring the will of the people from several states. These Supreme Court judges, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they supposed to like interpret the law and then apply the law? Isn't that what they're supposed to do? So if something is unconstitutional, then and they see it as such, then that's what's supposed to happen. You know, that's supposed to be the law of the land, basically. This does not come up for a vote with these guys. You know, they you know, sure, I'm sure they take the will of the people into consideration with everything, but it's their decision. They're supposed to be the wisest people in the country. The ones who have studied law the most, the ones who can guide the country as a whole, you know, kind of as a whole, a little bit better. I know there are fail-safes within the other two government branches as well, but all in all, these are basically the wise men who are saying, this should not be, it should be this. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's make this official policy. Basically, if my understanding is correct, I'm a little rusty, I'll admit. But so the will of the people in and of itself, not so much. Just no. It's not a voting matter. It really isn't. You're ignoring the will of the people. Well, the will of the people doesn't really play into this. So you just keep trying, and they love playing that whole card too. If you've noticed, you know, they like to say the will of the people is this. Well, the will of the people thinks you should shut the fuck up and sit down and get the fuck back to work. If you actually paid attention to the will of the people, and I mean the people, not the corporations, which are not fucking people, then you would maybe understand what the will of the people is instead of keeping your head stuck in the sand reading your Bibles.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh. Speaking of other people that really piss me off, anti-vaxxers and people who are against like all of this medical I want to say process, but that's not the word I need, but advancements that we've had over these years. You know, it's nice to see one get his comeuppance. A German biologist who offered 100,000 euros, I believe that is the euro symbol, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
I should know. I see them every day.
Yeah, see? Hey, good thing you're here.
I carry them in my pocket.
There you go.
I buy things with them.
Yeah. So he offered 100,000 euros to anyone who could prove that measles is a virus and has been ordered by a court to pay up. Stefan Lanka, who believes the illness is psychosomatic, made the pledge 4 years ago on his website. The reward was later claimed by German doctor David Barden, who gathered evidence from various medical studies. Mr. Lenka dismissed the findings because they don't match with his narrative, of course. But the court in the town of Ravensburg ruled that the proof was sufficient. Reacting to the verdict by the court in the southern town, Mr. Lenka said he would appeal. It's a psychosomatic illness, he told regional papers Südkurier?
Südkurier, yeah.
Hey, I got that right. People become ill after traumatic separations. A recent outbreak of measles in Germany has sparked debate about whether vaccinations against the disease should be compulsory. Survey says, bing, yes. An 18-month-old boy in Berlin died last month of the disease. World Health Organization said it was taken aback by the 22,000 cases reported across Europe since 2014, urging to step up vaccinations. Measles is a highly contagious infectious disease characterized by a high fever, rash, and generally feeling unwell. The most severe cases can be fatal. So see, this is the kind of shit that is going to happen. Anti-vaxxers. We're already seeing it over here too. Oh God, there's like other diseases that are making comebacks over here, like in California and shit. And it's like, oh no. And why are they anti-vaxxers? What was the whole cause of anti-vaxxers? Because Jenny McCarthy said, well, vaccinations made my child autistic. Like, your child being autistic is apparently the worst possible thing in the world when it's just fucking not. I would rather, you know what? Let's give this argument. Let's give this one, okay? Let's say I have a child and vaccines have been proven, and without a shadow of a doubt, to cause autism. I would rather my child have autism than be fucking dead of something preventable. Because autism you can still deal with, and there are levels of autism to the point to where you can't even tell. From what I understand about autism, it's more of a communication thing. Am I right on this one? I will admit my research is not as in depth on this one as others could be. But
what was the point again? Sorry.
I kind of went off there, didn't I?
Yeah.
The point is, autism is not as bad as people like Jenny McCarthy would make you believe. And
no. I mean, it really depends on the kid. Like I've had interactions with kids with autism, and I've had friends who were on the spectrum, and it really does depend on where they fall. And some of the smartest, most interesting people I've ever encountered with, we're on the spectrum, and it's not a terrible thing. It might affect learning, it might affect interaction with other people, but there are ways of these people who have autism can learn how to cope and learn how to get better at interacting with people. It's certainly not, it's not going to turn them in. It's not going to, turn them into, a baby with autism is not going to turn into some sort of a creature who is unable to exist within the real world at all. I mean, there's often, you probably hear all these stories of suggesting that certain historical figures who did this, that, or the other were possibly on the autism spectrum themselves, and they were, and they ended up doing great things. It can happen. But in terms of this, it's very weird, very interestingly German, to just kind of go, yes, I prove this isn't a thing. It is not. I dismiss these for reasons of whatever. It is psychosomatic. But I don't know. It's. I don't understand. I was given an animal vaccine when I was a child. I even when I was in school, and I was in primary school, we had to actually have it checked to make sure it was still there, because it leaves like a little mark on you, and they can check that if it's faded away, you have to get it again. But if it's still visible, you're cool, you're grand. And I just kind of accepted it as that's a thing. That's the thing we do because we don't want to have measles, because it's an actual disease. And the reason why I didn't know, I was kind of drifted off there. I actually went looking up Wikipedia, and the vaccine has prevented over 1 million deaths every year, according to Wikipedia,
Yeah.
since it was discovered. So that seems to be leaning towards it being a virus and a good thing to be inoculated against, you know?
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely. Jeebus. I see. Like I said, I'd rather I'd rather run the risk of any kind of autism than my child be dead, because autism you can deal with, you can cope,
Yeah.
as we have seen. And I think one of the things that led Jenny McCarthy to claim this was because the reports of autism kept increasing over the years.
Mm.
Never mind the fact that they're finding more and more ways to determine,
Yeah.
they're researching and they're reconfiguring how they can define autism.
Yeah, they are. They've, I mean, we've people have probably heard of Asperger's syndrome. Asperger's syndrome is now not a term that is used. They have changed. I forget they've reclassified it basically, and there is a lot of research that is finding that young people are either maybe on the autism spectrum or have attention deficit disorder or whatever, all these other different things. It is all coming out with research that has come out in the last decade or more, and that I think comes down to being able to recognize these things, being able to recognize the autism spectrum, ODD, ADHD, dyscalculia, dyslexia, dyspraxia, all these things. But that's just on account of improvements in science, being able to spot these things, or really in psychology, being able to spot these issues and being able to deal with them and being able to watch them and assess them and make sure that they're not impacting on the child's most of the time it's manageable,
Yeah, definitely. So let's end on a higher note. We got one last story here, because this guy is just plain stupid. A Detroit area man who once tried to sell his counterfeit cash machine on TV has been sent to prison again for counterfeiting. Federal Judge Robert Cleland had no mercy for Kenny Boom Smith. I swear that is how it is written in the article. I
Kenny
do not.
parentheses Boom Smith.
Yes, that is how it is written. Ordering a 3-year sentence Tuesday. The punishment even exceeded the recommendation of prosecutors. Smith was accused last year of selling $33,600 in counterfeit cash while on supervised release for an earlier counterfeiting crime. Prosecutors say it's his third counterfeiting conviction and his 10th overall conviction. Smith's lawyer had asked for a 1-year prison sentence. In a previous case, Smith was arrested partly because of his desire to be on Hardcore Pawn, which is based at a Detroit pawn shop. Owner Seth Gold told agents that Smith wanted to show his counterfeiting skills. National TV is not the way to go.
It's kind of a crime to counterfeit. That's not a thing you want to show off.
No, not on a national scale. No, not with money. Not with money. I mean,
No,
you
not
can
at all.
counterfeit some things that are not illegal to make counterfeits of. Counterfeit cameras, sure. Counterfeit phones, sure. Those are not as illegal as long as you don't falsely advertise. When you falsely advertise, then it becomes illegal. But it is illegal to counterfeit money. Whether it's it's advertised as counterfeit money or not. So, that's kind of illegal. So, saying, yeah, I can do this, I want to show off how I can make all these $1 bills with all of these sequential numbers and everything, is like, yeah. So, you're in prison for 3 years for being, for just letting everything get a little too far away from you, for being a dumb shit.
I wonder, is this sort of is this sort of a knock-on effect of this idea, this kind of Andy Warhol's 50 Minutes of Fame idea that he's a guy, he wants to get on TV. This is his idea. He wants to be famous. He wants to to be a star. So he decides, I'm really good at counterfeiting. I could be like a TV star on Hardcore Pawn for counterfeiting, and people be like, hey, Kenny Boom Smith is really good at counterfeiting. He'll be a sensation for it all. It's like those people who go on singing shows and can't sing, and the producer put them on because they're terrible. he's probably thinking in that kind of way. It's a sort of a skewed sense of what is important, what is marketable, and what will get you notoriety in a positive way, which this didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, he's got 3 years to think about his life choices, so I could just wait to see the prison conversations. What are you in for? I ran a guy off the road. All right, what are you in for? I was counterfeiting and decided to advertise it on television. Yeah, that's going to go over well.
Really well.
Oh, yes. But, yeah, so with that is our last news story, and thus it is towards the end of the show. We're going to go ahead and get out of here for this week. And Pat, thank you so much for being on. It has been a pleasure.
No problem.
And,
no problem.
And for everyone else before who has been on and didn't think to thank before, thank you. It could be a redundant thanks. I don't know. Because I sometimes get really bad about thanking people, even though I know that's like I do feel grateful. It's one of my things. But if we wanted to find Pat on the internet, where could we find him?
Well, if you want to find me on the internets, you can find me because I am Patrick Brogan, the Unemployed Historian, as I normally do on my podcast, and you can find me at theunemployedhistorian.com. You can find me at nerdvice.com. You can find me at spacemonkeymafiastudios.net.com, whatever that is this week. You can find me on ortgomer.com. You can find me on Tumblr at theunemployedhistorian.tumblr.com. At TU Historian on Twitter. There's a Facebook page, which is The Unemployed Historian. You should be able to figure out there are actually 2 unemployed historians on Facebook. One of them is not me. I'm unfortunately the one with the fewer likes and one that's been around the longest. So if you could send a few likes my way, and I can catch up on this young upstart that has taken over the Facebook likes for that name, please do. And YouTube as well as The Unemployed Historian. If you go on to theunemployedhistorian.com, you can find all those things.
Sweet. As for me, of course, you can find my stuff on rtgomer.com and nerdvice.com. And, of course, this show, along with my other podcasts, can also be found on iTunes. Just type in the name of the show you want to see, and you should bring it right up. They're pretty much up to date, I think. I may be trying a few different things here and there in terms of things. I'm looking at putting them on SoundCloud as well. That way I don't clog up the WordPress servers a little much on my site. But that's something farther along the line. Let's see.
And you can actually find Pilot Season on iTunes and Stitcher as well. Sorry, sorry for putting in there. I just remembered as you said it.
That's okay. Yeah, totally. Let's see. You can also find me on the social medias at Gomer21XX. That's Twitter, Tumblr, pretty much anywhere else. And I believe that is it. My Patreon information is in the post-show bumper. Go check that out. And if you like the show, you want to give and help support, because, like I said, I need a new microphone. Even just $1 a month, not a month, but per production. There you go. And big special thanks to my patrons too, which I feel I never do enough, even though there's the ticker running across the bottom on the video version. But anyways, again, thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next time. And until then, this is Gomer, the Ranting Thespian, with Patrick Brogan, signing off.
Thespian Talk is an RT Gomer Productions presentation. Our show's theme is Kick Shock by Kevin MacLeod. Find out more at incompetech.com. If you like this show and want to help support future episodes, head over to patreon.com/Gomer21XX. For a contribution as little as $1 per production, you can get early access to all future productions, as well as monthly Patreon-only vlogs and announcements. Our show's artwork was produced by the talented Becky Hopkins, who can be commissioned by going to patreon.com/BeckyHop. Check us out on iTunes or visit rtgomer.com for more great shows.